Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog, Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Vactor Beer with Animation Verse. With geeks, with friends and company. I am your temporarily elected host, Frank, and I am here to welcome everybody from across the Vactorverse and beyond. Let's say hello. Let's get Beer with Geeks out of the way. Hey, Tim, how's it going?
Hey, Frank, how are you? Good to see you.
Doing all right. Good to see you, buddy. Look who it is. It's Mr. Vibbert.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going, Marc Vibbert?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good to see you. Trent Krim, Daily Planet.
Yeah.
Love what you got going on there. I dig it. And last but certainly not least, he is the ruler of the Vactorverse, Flame Bro Vactor.
I am here with my favorite DC Comics cavalcade. These are the head of the DC table right here. I love talking DC with all these guys.
Fortunately, it's just a square table, so there's really only one seat for each of us.
We're the knights of the square table.
Yeah.
That's how we roll. That's what we called it in the cafeteria anyway, back in the day. I am so excited that we are here for the finale of season 2 of My Adventures with Superman. Guys, what a good time this show has been. I am so excited to get into season 2 with all of you. But before we do that, I have a very important question to pose to each and every one of you.
Yes, this is my natural hair color.
Okay. I see. Well, that settles that. And after that, I just have to ask, what are you drinking? Let's go in the order we just went. Tim, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Sierra Nevada Trailpass.
Ooh.
It is a golden. It is hilariously non-alcoholic.
Really?
Yeah, and so it does not. So it's not like an Old Duels, where you're like, this is not beer. This is something different.
Interesting.
It tastes just like a really good lager, beering on hoppy IPA. It is just missing the alcohol content. Well, it is less than 0.5%.
Less than 0.5%. Wow.
Yeah. And the reason I am drinking this is because it is I didn't make it to the store this evening, so before I so that is the real reason why this is my beer of choice today.
That's an excellent choice, though. Well, you said it's called Trail.
No, it's like
it
quenches your thirst for the beer without you having to poop out at parties.
So, yes, exactly. Yeah, and get unpopular. Do you have? You said it's a golden ale.
It is a golden ale. Yes.
Golden ale. Wow, that sounds fantastic. 0.5.
I love Lucy acknowledged, by the way.
Yes.
Level. Yeah.
I got you. Mr. Vactor, what filleth your cup running over?
I've got beer, boys, of the root variety. I've got the A&W Zero Sugar. So I will be dying a death of cancer due to artificial sugar.
That's a callback for everybody.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
Mr. Vibbert, what's quenching your thirst this evening?
Some liquid death. I'm murdering my thirst with some water.
Nice. Murder your thirst. I love it. I love to see it. Liquid Death, the most violent water on the market. Others may go for like, oh, it's Fiji, it's relaxing. No, screw that. It's violent. It's death. Liquid Death. And I'm drinking a beer that I'm actually very excited to have. This is a Heady Topper IPA from the Alchemist Brewery in Vermont. These are pretty hard to come by up this way. It's a very sought after IPA. It's a really nice brewery that makes like very small quantities, and you have to go get it from the brewery and all this stuff. So it's I was hosting a family party this weekend, and my fridge right now is full of some really, really good beers. I have relatives up in Vermont who brought some nice beers with them. So over the next few weeks on Beer with Geeks, I'm going to be enjoying some nice stuff. I'm gonna make them last and try to enjoy them. So
nice. Very nice.
All right, how should we kick this off?
So I've been reviewing them weekly, every episode over at This Comic Cooks, but I haven't gotten you all's thoughts for the whole series overall. So maybe we should do just a season 2 retrospective of everything.
Sure.
I love that.
What happened this season? So I like when you watch a show weekly, like, and you don't really talk about it much, like I'll text my friend Bobby back and forth, or you guys or whatever, and be like, it was good. And that's basically where like my conversation on it ends. And so like what is fresh in my mind is like the latter half of the show.
Yeah.
But so like what happened this season?
Really, this was the season of Supergirl and Brainiac. That was like the main thrust of this season. We were still getting a little bit of the Clark and Lois relationship building, and they broke up, got back together. Will they, won't they, that old thing. But really, I think the biggest thing was introduction of Supergirl, Kara, and Brainiac coming to planet Earth and his whole plan that got revealed. So I'm curious, what did you guys think about Brainiac and Supergirl? How about Tim?
I love AI Brainiac. It's my I think maybe because my introduction to, well, actually not my introduction to Brainiac, because I watched like maybe it was the Ruby Spears Superman had they had VHS tapes when I was a kid. I could rent a Blockbuster, whatever. That was my first Brainiac, really. But my maybe it was the Adventures of Super. Whatever. That's not Marc. But really, like what I really fell for with Brainiac, or fell in love with Brainiac, is the AI, Krypton AI from Superman the Animated Series. So I loved to have that back. That felt really, really warm and cozy to me. Not that I don't mind the Kaluan thing and whatever. Like that's all good. It's but I just like how I like it being intricately tied to Krypton. And I liked like he had a real personality, a creepy one. Like he was not just an AI, he was an abusive AI. He was a full-on abusive relationship with Supergirl, and it didn't, for a kid's show, it didn't really hold back. And like from that, like I like plainly saw it watching it without me feeling the need to turn the TV off because it would be too much or whatever. So I really dug it, and I liked the new design. I know people are down on the triangles of Krypton. I know like it's not the most popular of designs, but I liked it. It's so radically different from what I'm used to seeing as a Brainiac design that I was a big fan.
Nice. How about Frank? We haven't heard your thoughts on this season yet.
Yeah, I feel like season 1 was like a really fun season, and we like fell in love with the characters and got to know their dynamics and everything. And season 2 was like, all right, cool. We did the disaster in Metropolis scale. Like now let's take it to the saving the world scale. And to bring in Brainiac is such a great way to do that. I'm with Tim on the I love AI Brainiac because Superman the Animated Series was my introduction to it, and so that is always what I'll think of as I look into my iPhone using a continuity camera. I have the 3 dots looking at me in the eye right now, so that's fun to think about.
Nice.
But I really loved this season, and I thought Supergirl was what a great way to sort of, there are, two different directions you could go with Supergirl, sort of the like automaton, very Kryptonian, like cold version, or the like becoming warm, more human version. And we got to see both because of the way that they unfolded her story. And I thought that was really, really smart.
Yeah. And the Jimmy kind of romance that
I love it.
They showed the dating, Kara being like a giddy schoolgirl, all that stuff was great. As a matter of fact, Mr. Vibbert, what did you think about Kara and this version of Supergirl? Because this is like a modern take on it, the most modern of any of the animated shows we've seen.
Yeah, I really enjoyed like how it was kind of like subverted, like from what we kind of normally see, like Supergirl, like I guess most recently like live action with the show that Frank and Tim know quite a bit about, with like Melissa Benoist, how she portrayed Kara on that show. So it was cool to see like this, like, oh, because you get like this little bit of her where you're like, oh, it's going to be like that way that we kind of normally have been seeing Kara, where she's, like you're saying, bubbly and whatnot, but then you kind of get like this flip and turn with it, and you kind of can see it's like this whole like you were saying, Frank, where it's like this whole kind of like emotional like manipulation that Brainiac is doing with her, and like to the point where like she believes that like Brainiac is her dad in this. And I just enjoyed like that whole kind of subverting of expectations with it, but then it nicely flows back into kind of like what you're more used to with Kara, and it earns that. So I liked the slow but like measured kind of arc that she had like throughout the season.
Yeah, and talking about Brainiac, I think we all praised the voice cast from the first season. Michael Emerson as Brainiac, chewing the scenery like it's bubblegum. I loved every instance of Michael Emerson, and he's definitely one of those actors that I think gets typecast in, hey, he's going to play creepy villain guy in every single role ever since Lost. And obviously he fits that role. He does it very well.
He is a different creepy villain guy every time.
Yeah.
So it's worth noting that his creepy villain guy on Lost is different than his take on the Joker in Dark Knight Returns, is different than his take on Brainiac and My Adventures with Superman and all the other stuff that he's done.
Even in Fallout, we just saw him in the Fallout TV show, and he was playing kind of a creepy scientist. But yeah,
he's ahead of his time.
I can't like overstate how great he is as an actor, and bringing his gravitas to this role was fantastic. Since I wasn't talking to you guys week to week, I was kind of curious, did anyone have let's just go round robin. What was your favorite episode from this season? Did you have a favorite like moment? And you don't have to know the name of the episode, just if you could give a general recap of it. Did you have a favorite episode from this season, Tim? I know you're chomping at the bit.
Well, when I asked what happened this season, that was a real question. Like, so favorite moment or favorite episode isn't exactly going to be the one that I'm like, oh, it was definitely that one. There was something very special about Amanda Waller, like telling herself she was special and then making herself pancakes, or making pancakes for Sam.
That was a great
and then descending down like that. It was a really good episode.
Yes.
But honestly, if I'm going favorite moment, it was the finale in which you think Clark is going to punch Kara and he wraps her in a hug instead. Like it teleplays it like he's going to punch her, and instead he wraps her around and tells her that she's loved. Like honest to goodness tears. Like I was actually watching with my daughter because I hadn't had a chance to watch it, and I was like, we're gonna watch it together. I'm sure it's fine. Like I'm taking a moment here, and like he did that, and she's like, Daddy, what's he doing? And I'm like, he's telling her that she's loved. I'm fine. I could have kept it inside if somebody didn't ask me if I had to explain it at the very moment it was happening. Yeah, it was like that was primo Superman to me. Like it's to decide not to fight and to go for a hug and to be like, you're loved and special and wanted and needed. That's it. Most powerful man on the planet decides not to punch and to hug. That's the guy. That's the one that's the guy I love. And I thought it just totally delivered on everything that I wanted. So that's definitely my favorite moment.
Yeah. Before I asked Frank what his favorite moment was, I did want to point out what Tim is saying. There were multiple times throughout this season that I said on my recap, this is what makes Superman Superman. This is the essence and the core value of who Superman is. And it was because of the Kents and how they raised him. That's why Superman is the greatest person. And I love the way that this show interpreted that and showed different ways of Superman being the best guy. And so I wanted to give a shout out to that. All right, Frank, what was your favorite moment from this season or favorite episode?
The two-parter at the end was fantastic, and I was able to watch it as a two-parter because I had fallen a week behind right in time for the finale. So it was like, all right, let me binge the last two. Didn't realize it was going to be like a real like 1-2 punch, and so it was such a satisfying little mini movie I got to watch that I just loved that the entire finale, the Lois going after him, and the like indomitable spirit of Lois Lane. But instead of being on the case, she's, chasing down to save the man she loves. I just loved that angle of it. I love that it was sort of a backdoor way for us to see, so that Black Mercy gave us the opportunity to see like Krypton and Jor-El and Lara and all of that. So I just, what a fun, the whole Black Mercy Sun Eater thing is often a great excuse to do that. And I like that they took the option. They found a way to work it in a really fun way and an organic way that tied into the whole story. The fact that it's so centered on Lois and Clark at the end of the day really, really made me happy as a Superman fan, in addition to all the stuff that you and Tim were just saying.
Yeah. Vibbert, what was your favorite moment from this season or favorite episode?
Kind of going off what Frank said there too, is that there's two like moments that like really stand, or I guess sequences that like really stand out to me, because there's the whole series of events there near like the last two episodes with Clark / Kal-El / Superman and Lois in Black Mercy, where they're escaping from it and like working together. And like Lois initially is like, why am I like so like strong here? And I'm just human. And he's like, well, that's because that's how I picture you. You're the strongest person I know. And then how like they work together to like basically like slingshot each other back and forth to like punch a hole in basically like the ceiling of that to get out, when Brainiac's like, that shouldn't be possible. But he's like, well, you didn't plan on Lois and Clark and getting together and teamwork. So I like that whole sequence there. And then with kind of going off the same thing too, is like the episode after Kara kind of quote unquote kidnaps Clark, and they're in the spaceship there together, and that whole kind of him getting the backstory and getting to know her a bit more, and really that relationship kind of beginning there, and finding out a few more things about Krypton there and his family. And then you can kind of see the bond with them there beginning in that, where she's still pretty much under like Brainiac's pull at that point, because she kind of like Winter Soldiered in the season almost in a way. But I like where you see that forming of their like family bond there at that point too. So I think overall the things I enjoyed most were like the relationships that they built and expounded on in this season.
Yeah, and I love that Black Mercy that Frank was talking about, because it combined that For the Man Who Has Everything is one of my favorite Superman stories of all time, and then also almost like a Groundhog Day, where Lois is like reliving the same thing over and over again. And I love those. I'm a sucker for time travel stories and then like time loop stories where the protagonist is replaying it over and over again. So that was, I think, my favorite moment from this season. And we mentioned Jack Quaid also a little bit earlier. Man, we're 2 seasons in now, and I still think that he was such a great choice for Clark and Superman, Clark and Kal, that vulnerability that he brings in his voice of, he's not like he's not Wolverine, right? He's not like, he's a super macho guy. It's like he has that vulnerability, and you want to give him a hug. You want to have him as your best friend. And every time I hear his voice, even on The Boys, when I hear his voice, I'm thinking of Superman now because of this show. And there's actually a really good My Adventures with Superman comic that DC's putting out right now. They're only like 2 issues in, but I'm hearing Jack Quaid's voice when I'm reading the comic, kind of like Kevin Conroy was with Batman. So he's now infiltrated my mind as Superman. Man, everything that we talked about in that first season, we all reviewed the first season. If you haven't caught it, go back in our archives and check out the first season of My Adventures with Superman. But was there anything that this season kind of improved upon for you or added to this mythos? And we're getting a third season. We already know that. Was there anything that this season overall kind of just did something for you in terms of the overall mythos of Superman or just in this show in general? Let's ask Tim again because he's chomping at the bit. Look, he's chomping.
I like the angle, the different angle on Krypton than we're used to getting. And so I think that they're doing things with like Krypton's in the Phantom Zone, like it's not exploded, like, you know, or so that's fascinating. Like that's a brand new thing. And so I like that. Love the inclusion of Lex Luthor in this season. I think it's hard to have Superman without Lex Luthor. I like this version of Lex, like this, like I'm unsure of myself. Like, you know, I run, like I'm doing what you wanted me to do instead of like him being in charge. Like he's not quite there yet, just like Superman's not quite there yet, still a little unsure of himself too. And so I'm like looking forward to their, like, I guess eventual confrontation, but it's not like a it's just a totally different feel. And I think it's what this show is doing, which no show really has done for my money since Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, is round out the Daily Planet staff and like give them something to do and have it be worth showing up there in something, you know, like that, you know, in Superman the Animated Series, it was like you got Perry and that's basically it. Like, right. You know, Angela Chen every so often, right? Wasn't the same, but here, you know, we have Steve, we have Chief, even Vicky Vale's come a couple of times from the Gotham Gazette. Yeah. Like, I liked that story. And so for my money, it's kind of giving you the full version of Superman that you want, like these characters, even if they're, you know, exaggerated, but it's also doing something different with his mythology, which I appreciate. So like, it's almost like on the basis, I'm like, I recognize all these characters. This is wonderful. I know exactly who they are and how they act and what they should do. But then it's changing their environment and that, you know, and to give me new stories instead of something I've seen before, which I really don't have any interest in. I don't like. I'm past the point where I want a direct adaptation of something. Right. Like if I want the adaptation of something, I'll just read the original thing, or I'll watch the original thing. Yes. I'd rather just see something new. That's more interesting to me. It's more worth my time. So
yeah, and that was the thing about the first season where it was like, this is an anime and it's bringing this new take on Superman, this modern twist on it, and it's not the same thing over and over again. So as longtime fans of Superman, I think it gives us something, and then also people who are new and they say, why should I care about Superman? I think I can tell them positively, this is the show to watch if you want to know what is good about Superman. And I think hopefully this James Gunn Superman is going to give us the same positive outlook on Superman, on the Man of Steel. So those are, and also Steve Lombard, I loved his take on this version of Steve that we got in this one. Frank, what were your thoughts on kind of what did this season add overall, or what, like when you think about season 2 in a nutshell, what are your thoughts on this is what season 2 is versus season 1?
I mean, there's a lot of things, right? But what one that I'll highlight is going deeper on Lois as a character and like getting to know her, you know, getting to know her dad. Yes. Right. And seeing them spend time together, seeing what their relationship was like, what their relationship was like when she was a child and how that impacts her still to this day. All of that while figuring out what's going on with Clark, I thought was actually a real I found very relatable as these are the things that are in your mind when you're 22 or whatever, however old they're supposed to be. It really was very realistic. I thought she's okay, in a serious, adult relationship for probably the first time. And she's, figuring out her relationship with her dad. And it's that's very relatable stuff, and gave Lois a lot of depth that I just love to see them sort of spending a lot of time. We don't get that from Jimmy, right? To go quite that deep on Jimmy, but for Lois we do, because she's Lois Lane, and I love that. I love a Superman show that because it's my adventures with Superman, it's from her point of view in a big way, and I just love any Superman show that centers Lois as much as this one does.
And they didn't tease it. They didn't wait for Lois to find out. She found out almost right away, and we're just off and running with not. Oh, Lois is. She's her. I almost feel like her intelligence is insulted when you have her and Superman, and she doesn't figure it out, and it takes 10 seasons for her to get to that point. I like this take on it. This it feels a lot more modern, that she figured it out right away, and that's not even a plot point. It's just they're just going with it. And also, speaking of things that are not plot points, I also love how Jimmy is black, Lois is Korean. They never really reference that to a certain extent. And bringing in that diversity and having multiple ways that you can have these characters. It's not something that, just I feel like with Miles Morales for Spider-Man, it was it's not inherent that you have to have the Spider-Man or Peter Parker's always this way, or you always have to have Lois this way. This is just the character, and it makes sense in a modern setting of the melting pot that we have in America. So I like that. I like the different takes on all of these things. Mr. Vibbert, we're going to wrap up with you. What are your just overall thoughts on season 2? If somebody comes and asks you, hey, I watched season 1, is season 2 worth my time? I'm watching a lot of things right now. Is season 2 worth my time?
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely so with that, because one of the other things I really liked about the season 2 was that a lot of those characters that they introduced in that first season, they didn't just drop and you don't see them again. They gave a lot of the villains that we met in that first season. They gave them their own, they gave them their own little mini arcs through this season. So it's cool to kind of see that going through the season 2, and to the point where a lot of them teamed up with Clark and Kara and Lois and Jimmy and everything there at the end, not as a permanent thing, but just hey, we live on this planet, so we probably should help you out too, so we can continue to do our stuff after this. So I liked that little mini arcs that we got with all of them. And then we got references back to stuff that happened in season 1, but you didn't necessarily need to have watched it. Everything still fit by itself. And I liked the furthering of the relationships we had here too, whether it was Lois and Clark, or the stuff with Jimmy too, being Clark's best friend, and him being brought into that conference and then kind of blindsided for why he was brought into that, and the arc that came from that. So I just really, I guess overall I enjoyed the writing for this season, because I thought it built really well off of what we already got in that first season. So it has me excited for what we'll get in a season 3, because I like the slow kind of build to where it leaves Lex off at the end of the season. He's got Slade with him there at the end, Waller and Lois's dad, Sam seem like they're kind of at another uneasy truce again. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. And so I liked in that last episode we got. It's a very subtle change, but a new suit for Superman there at the end, and then Kara gets an actual suit that's not black and red. So it was cool that they got cool cool new suits there at the end, so you can sell new action figures for Superman.
I haven't even seen a wave of the first season of action figures. Never mind the second one.
That's true.
That's fair.
Yeah, I felt like the new suit was a little bit of synergy. Like it felt like, I was like, oh, that S is also outlined in yellow. Funny that we've never seen that before, but now I've seen it twice. So that felt like company synergy to me. I don't know if I love the giant shoulder pads, but besides that, I like the new suit.
Yeah, I wasn't too hot on that, but this is one that James Gunn said is outside of the DC continuity, because when they announced all the new DC stuff, they were like, oh yeah, the same actors are going to be playing them in different formats and different mediums. And then when they asked him about My Adventures with Superman, I saw an interview the other day. He's like, yeah, that's kind of separate. That's not the new DC universe that I'm taking over.
No, I mean that makes sense. It's a little bit like the Batman at the same. It's kind of
right,
like
right.
Something different, but it's working, so not touching it. Yeah,
right. Man, I can't wait for the Penguin. Woo! Oh yeah, my friends, this was a great time. I always love talking to everybody here about DC comics or DC animation or DC movies. Let's gather, let's reconvene when the next Superman movie comes out and all these things. I would love to hear, Marc Vibbert, where can we find you on the internet, sir?
So, where you can find me, I will play these nice little intros for each of us as you do this for each of us. So, for me, give me a second.
Yeah. All right.
Find me at animationfascination.net for Animation Fascination. If you want more Star Wars stuff, holopod.com for that. And if you want more Ted Lasso, like you got animated Trent Krim and season 2 of this, you can go to richmondwaypod.com for that. Yeah.
Excellent. And the Beer with Geeks, the two geekiest beer lovers that I know, Tim and Frank, where can they find you on the internets, my friends?
I'll play your
beerwithgeeks.com. Beerwithgeeks.com is...
Oh, sorry.
When we're not frequenting Philadelphia bars, the next best place is beerwithgeeks.com. That's generally the place you can find all the 500 episodes that we have on the website there, and search through them and find us talking about all kinds of geeky things, all kinds of geeky topics from Superman and Star Wars and Marvel and DC and beyond.
Oh, yeah. And if you're so inclined and interested, I am Vactorverse all over the internet. But if you want to see me on YouTube, This Comic Cooks is where I talk about comic books, and Trust in the Force is where I talk about Star Wars. So thank you very much for joining us. We love having all you here, and we love talking Superman. See you in season 3.